Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. Welcome to today's Crypto Blast, where Cam O'Connor from Institutional Fi will be giving us a rapid roundup of the latest pricing flows and market moving news in crypto markets. Think of it as crypto updates without the degeneracy and with a tie on instead. But before he does, and whilst we wait for him to join the conversation, as usual, nothing discussed on this Spaces session constitute trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ, or indeed Institutional Fi, or indeed myself, Mr. Ryan Paisley, or indeed Mr. Cam O'Connor. Cam, how the devil are you on what day is it? April the 23rd, Wednesday, all day. You you gonna unmute yourself?
Good morning. Good morning. I joined and I missed the end where you spoke to me there. So all good now. All seems to be on the same time.
Perfect. How
How
the
are you
devil are
doing,
you
Ryan?
doing? I'm all right, mate.
Yeah,
To be
good.
honest, I'm a little bit stressed out. It's been one of those days. I've got a lot trying to
Oh,
get done, but this is why I like the break. I like the break, and we have a chat with you and work out what's going on in crypto. So tell me, what is going on in crypto?
who knows? No, I'm joking. Of course, I know. Of
And
course,
that's
I
the
know.
end of the
And
show.
yeah, and that's the end of the show. And soon the listeners will know. So there we
Yeah,
go.
there you go.
Exciting, actually. Yeah, we started yesterday's Spaces off on a really positive note with a really bright outlook for the day, and
Yeah.
indeed, those outlooks turned out really, really well. In fact, even down to the Ethereum side of things, which we will talk about um, later in the show, should we say? Also excited for our Spaces interview
Yes.
with Andre later as well. I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit more
Indeed.
in a
Indeed.
moment. But before we do, let's jump into the crypto market update. So this morning, Bitcoin opened with a gap up on the CME Bitcoin futures of around 2.45%, reaching highs of $94,500, almost filling the 12% gap on the AVP that we talked about just yesterday. If we look over to the XCGP on Bitcoin or over on Pepperstone, this also meets with that same resistance on the AVP that we were talking about around 96 1.
I was
Almost
going
got
to
confused there and
61.
set us back set us back a few months. Yeah. So a little bit of a resistance above us here where we're trading at the moment. We'll jump into some more specifics later on, and also some news which could be negative, could be positive, but you'll just have to
You
stick around
tease.
and
You're a
wait and
tease.
see. There you go. Looking across to Ethereum. After the clarification from I can never say his name smoothly, but this is my issue, Vitalik, on Ether's futures roadmap. Ethereum rose over 17% from the lows of yesterday's, reaching to highs of today. Ether is currently trading at $1,793. So a very, very positive 24 hours for Ethereum's price action. A lot of interesting price action going on over in Ethereum. I saw via Look On Chain, which is a channel on X that tracks on-chain movement of particularly whale accounts moving large sums of money. There was an ETH whale that bought around about the top in December, sold just a couple of weeks ago, so around the lows, the recent lows,
Oof.
and then just bought back some ETH today. So
Oof.
and we're talking like tens of millions. So they took a massive L. So they're buying high, selling low,
So, but the issue I
buying.
have with this, the issue I have with this, obviously being top and tailed is never a good thing. But the issue I have is, do we, is I'm assuming it's like TradFi when when you try and watch what people are doing in the market. On some of the products, it's a lot easier than others.
Hmm,
Um, but you don't know what they're doing against it, right? You don't know
no,
if this is, maybe this is a hedge. You don't know. So I'm always a bit hesitant to say, oh, this wallet has done his ass on buying high, selling lows, but you have no idea what it's against, right?
no, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, so I think one thing to be mindful, and it's you see it in traditional markets, you always have done. So I guess, yeah, for those people that aren't really aware that, you know seeing what one order book does, or what one book does, should I say, rather than order book, what one book does, it's very very easy to kind of get excited and try and predict what you think that person's done, or how much that person's made or lost. Like, sometimes you see people that, one book or one side of the story might show you buying the low, selling the high, but they might be really poor hedges, and he's actually lost money on the other side. So
Sorry, I was joining on multiple accounts there. What's going on?
No, but that's my 2 cents anyway. Do you want to choose what account? Do you want to choose one account to talk from?
There we go. Not sure what happened because my phone was literally on the other side of the room, and it's all of a sudden requesting to come up. So maybe I need to clean my screen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Moving on.
Does the sound come across okay?
Yep. All good.
Perfect. All right, let's jump into it. So we talked about Bitcoin, we talked about Ethereum. Moving down the market cap list, then in no particular order, Solana is currently trading at $152. XRP is trading at $2.28. BNB is trading at $612, and PaxG is at $3,348. Right. Finally, that was really distracting me. I had to sort that out. Right.
I
Moving
think
on to the Bitcoin.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna enforce a rule that you can only join one account if this carries on going forward.
100%. 100%.
Or,
Right.
or get the
So,
wife to log in on the other account and use her phone downstairs or something. But we can't keep going through where both accounts get muted. It's ridiculous.
yeah, exactly. So moving over to Bitcoin Ethereum spot ETF flows for yesterday, which would be the 22nd of April. Bitcoin saw massive inflows yesterday of $912.7 million.
Oof.
And the highest, again, the previous day, so Mondays, we saw highs of over 300 million, which took us to the highs of January. And yesterday took us again to, middle of January, that the peak euphoria phase that Bitcoin was in before the sell-off. So yeah, just shy of $1 billion in net inflows for Bitcoin. Ethereum saw a modest $38.8 million in net inflows as well. So positive on both sides of the ETFs there. Despite the large flows, though, BlackRock actually didn't lead the charge yesterday, which is what we used to see back in January with those flows. Fidelity, which has the ticker FBTC, brought over $253 million in, and ARKB brought in $267 million. So moving on to news that you may have missed over the last 24 hours. Texas is just hours away from holding a hearing on its strategic Bitcoin reserve today, which hopefully that goes down positively.
What's obviously what was the state the other day that was narrowly kind of avoided a Bitcoin reserve, or at least taking it further? I can't remember what state it was, but what's the opinion on the Texas one? Are we expecting it to go through to the next stage? Obviously, it's not like
Yes.
they are expecting
Yeah.
it to go to the next stage. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Do we
They're very bullish over there.
do we know how many? Because obviously there's a lot of hoops that need to be gone through. Sorry, put my teeth in. There's a lot of hoops that need to be gone through to get to an actual strategic reserve. So I'm guessing there's going to be quite a few votes and maybe like house hearings and stuff like that. So do we know roughly what the timeline will be, or is it just kind of playing it by ear at the moment?
I think it's all playing it by ear. I don't believe there's a timeline on the cards.
I guess they just want to keep the dialogue going, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's exactly it, I think. So moving on, according to the Financial Times, Brandon Lutnick, the son of the US Commerce Secretary, is leading Cantor Fitzgerald in a plan of $3 billion Bitcoin investment initiative with SoftBank, Tether, and Bitfinex. The project involves the creation of a new entity, 21 Capital, with Tether contributing $1.5 billion in Bitcoin, SoftBank contributing 900 million in crypto assets, and Bitfinex 600 million in crypto assets. I say crypto assets specifically there because Bitcoin wasn't strictly mentioned, but it was strictly mentioned that $1.5 billion would be contributed by Tether via
Right.
Bitcoin. So this initiative aims to replicate MicroStrategy's Bitcoin investment strategy company, basically operating that Bitcoin standard. So a massive shout out to the vet who's big in the XRP community, because his warning that he popped out yesterday that we mentioned on the spaces, that the XRP Ledger Foundation was warned about potential security vulnerability in a recent version of the XRPL JavaScript library, which allowed attackers to steal users' private keys and pose a serious supply chain risk. The issue affects only specific published versions, which you can go in and check. The patch version, which is version 4.2.5, has been released, and affected projects are urged to update this immediately. He was very quick on it yesterday, and I'm glad that we could report on it and help spread the word out.
Yeah,
That
that was really
eventually
good.
got picked up. Yeah, that eventually got picked up by a lot of publications and forced the XRPL community to bring a patch update quite quickly. Thank goodness. So hopefully no one was affected by that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So moving over to Coinbase, I was skeptical enough to mention this one in, but we'll do it because it is an official statement from Coinbase. Coinbase announced the support of a token bot called, I'm going to say this with a C, by the way, Clanker, on the base network. I thought I'd say the
Like
C
we've
bit on there
mentioned
before
before
I say
that
the word.
we've mentioned before that like the industry is really bad at naming things.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh god.
Clanker from Magic Forum. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh god.
Um.
It gets
Oh
worse.
dear. It gets worse. No, that's not a part of the story. That's not a part of the story. So we'll go over that. Coinbase announced support for the token Clanker on the base network. So I believe this is the first of its kind to trade on Coinbase. So trading will be phased in a limited amount, and it's going to be affected by jurisdiction. So, I mean, if you have a desire to trade this token bot, please obviously do your research. More so
Not
than
trading
more so than
advice, but
usual,
it's not
of
not
course.
trading advice, but stay the fuck away.
My trading advice would be give your head a wobble.
Brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant. Moving on, so DeFi Development Corporation, traded on the Nasdaq under JNVR, announced the purchase of approximately 88,194 Solana tokens for around $11.5 million, increasing its total holdings to just over $250,000 in SOL valued. $250,000 SOL valued at $34.4 million, and this includes all staking rewards. Bitcoin infrastructure company Arch Labs announced the completion of a $13 million Series A funding round led by Pantra Capital and participated by Multicoin Capital. With a valuation of approximately $200 million, Arch plans to launch Arch VM, and the mainnet is expected to be launched in early May, so very, very soon. Moving a little bit closer to home, the ECB has warned that US support for crypto under Trump could pose financial risks to Europe and called for changes to MiCA's rules. The European Commission dismissed the concern, saying current regulations are sufficient. The key issue is the potential threat of USD stablecoins to Eurozone's monetary sovereignty.
Yeah, so on this, so just reading between the lines there, because I did see a few of
Mm,
these kind of quotes going through, because I couldn't get my head around it at first, because as we know, yes, the SEC are kind of very pro crypto now, but they also are looking to regulate, and they're looking to bring in KYC and AML, which we know is a very good thing. So I was a bit kind of miffed when the ECB were kind of like going, "Oh no, what are the US doing with crypto?" Well, if in actual fact they're trying to regulate, the space, so that should be a good thing. So straight away you knew there was another reason why they were saying this, and when you read between the lines a little bit further, it was very apparent that they're using the "oh, Trump's too friendly with crypto" line, when what they mean is we're now bricking it because US based crypto and stable coins, because of the regulation that the SEC are going to bring in force, makes it much easier to go about these very large and institutional level stable coins, which then does threaten the Europeans kind of like grasp on custodian banks and stuff like that. So it feels to me that the ECB are trying to give the air of, oh my god, Trump is the what he's creating the Wild West, when in fact he's doing the opposite. But it does mean that the ECB are they're just behind the times, basically. Let's be frank. They're kind of wishing that they'd done this a year ago when they had the chance before Trump came in.
You know what? And I'm looking forward to when we talk to Andre, because it's going to be one of the questions that we pose to him.
Oh god.
Because obviously the European markets are his field, and especially with digital assets and how Europe are taking to him. They have been ahead of the curve in some regulatory aspects, like with MiCA specifically. Um, So I'm really interested
Yeah.
to get his
Well, and
thoughts
this is
on
the
this
thing,
later.
right? I know, sorry, we should be talking about this later on. Well, we will do with Andre, but that's why everyone's got to tune in at 4 o'clock London time. But yeah, we all know that the ECB, EU in general, why have one meeting about a problem when you can have 25 meetings about a problem? And they started before the US, and they're going to finish way after the US. And I think that kind of sums it up. And Trump's kind of come in and said to the SEC, all right, he's got his own reasons. He's making sure like his own book's being sorted out. But yeah, but at the end of the day, they're getting shit done, right?
Yeah, no, exactly that. And very much along those lines, the next couple of stories are going to slightly prove that. One slightly for the negative, and one slightly for a more positive outcome. So the SEC walks away from a case against Hex founder Richard Hart. According to his attorneys, the SEC has dropped its fraud case against Richard Hart, founder of Hex, PulseChain, and PulseX. The case was dismissed after the SEC chose not to amend its complaint by the 21st April deadline. And a federal judge had previously dismissed the SEC's initial complaint due to lack of jurisdiction. The SEC sues. So this is actually the opposite, where they're going in to sue someone. The SEC sues crypto executive over alleged $108 million scheme. The SEC accuses PGI Global CEO of running a $198 million crypto Ponzi scheme. Investors were sold unregistered securities disguised as AI trading packages, and this case marks the first crypto action by the SEC under the new chair, Paul Atkins. So, whilst they are letting go of cases, they're not just going. I think this is kind of a step in the direction of where, yes, we're being lenient. However, we are still going after, criminal cases, which is positive. It's a positive sign. Yeah, yeah. I'll be interested to see how this develops
Yeah.
further. If I'm honest. And then moving on again, very very similar tone here. Jay Clayton takes charge of Wall Street's most powerful prosecutor's office, bringing a controversial crypto enforcement record and deep ties to the financial sector. Former SEC Chair Jay Clayton has assumed the role of U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, a key post with the jurisdiction over Wall Street. At the SEC, Clayton led 57 crypto-related enforcement actions, including the Ripple case, and later advised crypto firms after stepping down. His appointment comes as the SEC moves toward a resolution in the Ripple case, which Clayton actually initiated back in 2020. Over 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Ugh, feels like a decade. The EU's data watchdog has proposed rules to limit how personal blockchain data is stored, warning it may conflict with privacy laws. The EDPB has published draft guidelines on how personal data should be stored and accessed on blockchains, aiming to align with GDPR rules. Storing personal data on chain should be avoided if it risks breaching core data protection principles, the board warns, and experts are split on the impacts. Some see the rules as overdue guardrails, while others agree they threaten decentralization and privacy innovation. Guardrails are simple, simple means that need to be installed, especially
Yeah,
when we're talking
exactly.
about data protection. So no doubt this is going to be taken quite seriously, and hopefully add in some extra protection for not only users but those who are consumers as well, who are not necessarily understanding all the back end and the legalities of stuff. A few cool things happened today. Bitcoin's market cap rose so significantly that it surpassed Google's market cap. This comes in just after they overtook Silver's market cap as well. So, and that is as BTC came in at over $94,000, not 64,000, as I believe I said earlier, and almost gave myself a heart
Yeah, right.
attack. But I think that's going to be it for me today with the news updates. There's been a really positive 24 hours,
Yeah.
and whilst from the technicals it does look like there's a little bit of a liquidity overhead which might pose a bit of resistance. It's very very positive, and I'll be looking forward to seeing how the Bitcoin ETFs perform today and what the reactions are. There's a few data points being released around, was it 1:30, so
Yeah.
just in 10 minutes
No,
time.
absolutely. And most
So it's something to
importantly,
pay attention to. Yeah,
everyone needs
go
to
on.
tune in at 4 o'clock when you're interviewing
Absolutely, they
Andrew.
do.
Perfect.
That's
Well,
it.
awesome. Well, look, listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Definitely, please do try and tune in at 4 o'clock. Well, you can replay it obviously as usual, which most of you do. But Cam, thank you so much. If you're not already following Cam and Institutional Fi, do so. Yeah, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Speak to you later.